As far as you know, environmental studies done or
Nothing
assessments
forthcoming
done,
from the
and they're not obliged at this point because they're a private corporation to provide any of those documents.
That's right. So we're using access to information in the little town of Port Hope to find out about what's going on with our resources.
So my understanding, but it's public lands,
Yes.
but it's being administered by this private company.
I think the company operates the land on behalf of the town. And when you go to a town council meeting, they talk as though you're speaking to the wrong people, but in fact, the town councilors are all harbor commissioners.
I was going to say, do they not take their direction from the town council if they are
They report
an
to town
arm's
council.
length public agency?
Maybe Chris has this better.
As I understand it, council has given the Harbor Commission, also known as themselves, the right to own all the land and the right to make all decisions regarding the land. So what happens to the waterfront is technically none of our business. It belongs to this private corporation who is not accountable. And the only person who could make them accountable are their corporate owners, the council of the municipality, who've chosen not to make them accountable.
So they are the sole owners of the corporation, the Harbor Commission?
The municipality is the sole owner of the corporate entity, the Harbor Commission. They claim that they are legally not accountable to anybody. Some have questioned that.
So this would be the equivalent of the public utilities basically telling people to mind their own business as well, isn't it? I mean, as long as an arm's length.
Exactly.
But that doesn't seem to happen, does it? I mean, there is accountability when it comes to some corporations, it seems, but not this one for some reason.
Well,
is
Port
that what I'm
Hope
doing?
has several municipally owned corporations, the cemetery board, the library board, etc. They report what they're doing. They report their audited statements to council. It comes out in the annual financial reports of the municipality. The Harbor Commission, nope, it's private.
No information forthcoming.
No,
Now, is there any way they can be compelled at council? I mean, there's opportunity at town council to address the council on issues, and obviously this has been brought up at council.
Well, just to give you an idea about how council operates, we presented this report to council. They quite nicely listened, politely listened to a little short slide presentation, and we had 10 minutes, and we gave them 10 minutes of information, and they thanked us very much and received it for information.
And no one's been in touch with you from the town?
Well, no, they invited us to come and meet the Harbor Commission, and a delegation, I wasn't able to attend, but a delegation of our people went to the Harbor Commission and presented the report and received for information. No real, we don't sense an interest in a dialogue. And in fact, we sense an interest in, thank you very much, on your bikes, leave it to us. We're taking care of this. Now, what I'm trying to get to the top of this discussion is the fact that they have nothing to lose by allowing people to consider options for these buildings, and they have everything to gain. The notion that one or two or even three of these buildings might be recycled, adaptively reused for some really exciting or interesting new commercial activity over the next 15 years. Like starting sometime when I'm too old to even fight this fight. Why wouldn't we think about what's the world's going to be like 10 years from now, rather than say it's going to be flat? And they made a big fuss that their new waterfront plan was green, right? They used the word green as though it's meaning environmentally sensitive. And of course, tearing down buildings and digging a hole in the ground and burying them is not green. I mean, nobody thinks that anymore. Green does not involve landfilling perfectly useful buildings.
Well, is the concern that if they want it to be more of a public space and less a commercial space, or they?
Well,
there's a bit of a discrepancy here because the new waterfront plan, which Rod mentioned and which triggered the formation of the Pier Group, showed it as empty park space. And there's nothing wrong with park space. Don't get us wrong. Even if the buildings are preserved, you've got 6, 7, 8 acres of waterfront land still preserved as park space. The real discrepancy is that in 2005, when they were first redrafting the Port Hope official plan, they designated the pier open space. 2006, when the final form was put forward, the designation on the official plan was changed to central commercial, same as Walton Street. Now, this is a pretty fundamental contradiction, and we've yet to hear an explanation as to why this contradiction exists.
Well, sure is, because one says it's going to be a green space, and the other says, well, it's going to be green space, but there'll be some commercial as well. I mean, you could end up with condominiums down there, privately owned,
That's right.
from that assessment.
And
Tough
that
sell
whole-
across from Cameco, but even so, yes, it could happen.
Not
But that
necessarily.
whole concept is, they don't have any obligation to speak to us or to tell the public generally. So we're in this advocacy position, trying to get disclosure. We can't imagine that there's not some machinations and thinking going on behind the scenes. They wouldn't make the decision to set the zoning for that space at C3 if they hadn't received some advice.
Now, do you have access to those reports that were
No.
utilized
No,
by
no, no,
council
no,
I mean, obviously, these were
we don't.
reports done by town staff
Yeah.
to make that assessment or that determination. Are none of those reports available to the public?
Not that we've managed to find so far, and I'm at the point now where I think I've got 13 three-ring binders full of my research on the pier. The planning rationale may be back and forth in internal memos, but there's no formal consultant report recommending this change, this change, this change. It happened internally, and it's none of our business.
Well, I want to remind the viewers we're watching Municipal Matters here on TV Cogeco. I'm your host, Dave Glover. Joining me are the gentlemen from the Pier Group, the co-chairs, Chris Wallace and Rod Stewart. We're talking about the Centre Pier in the municipality of Port Hope. We're talking about structures that have been in existence, as you said, since 1850.
Well, the
or at
building,
the earliest.
the pier
Some-
itself, but the earliest building here is 1880 something, Chris, and then
Actually,
1907, and then the Quonset Hut building is 1940, 53 maybe.
Yeah, the older buildings, the heritage buildings, are turn of the century. We don't have an exact date, but they're approximately turn of the century. The curved roof building that you can see driving along the foot of the pier is newer. It's not heritage per se, but it's in excellent condition, and it's probably the most flexible and reusable space. It's wide open, clear span space. It's a good looking interior, and you could put an indoor soccer field in there.
This building here is the
It looks like it looks like an arena already, actually.
yeah, it looks like a
Externally,
curling
it's not
rink,
exciting.
lawn bowling club. Who knows what that might be, but it's,
Well, I guess the point that you're trying to make here is that it doesn't. I mean, there's all kinds of things it might be, but at this point, the Harbor Commission isn't even interested in talking about what might be. They've clearly made their decision based on whatever reports they received.
In all fairness to the Harbor Commission and the municipality, when the decision was first gelling back in the 90s, first of all, there was very little appreciation of the heritage value. Studies like this had not been done. And the precedents that are now becoming internationally well known, I mean, Distillery District in Toronto is one of them, but there's projects all over the world. These are a fairly new phenomena, and they weren't that widely known. Hey, they're just old ugly buildings. The other factor, of course, is that in the 90s, there is pollution on the building. It's manageable, it's cleanable. But in the 90s, the cost of that pollution would have landed on the town and the taxpayers. And that was a legitimate reason for them to shy away then. But since 2001, the Port Hope Area Initiative, the Low-Level Radioactive Waste Management, the Port Hope Project, all of these interrelated federally funded bodies now have, I think latest that I heard was $320 million to clean up Port Hope. Many millions of that has gone into all of the engineering and environmental studies. So the whole picture is radically different, but our council and our Harbor Commission refuse to acknowledge that it's any different than it was in the bad old days.